I'd like to welcome all of you to our Tuesdays with Tim webinar series. Today we are here to talk about time management for directors. So first off, I want to applaud all of you for making time to attend the webinar today. So it's kind of a quick and simple one to go over today. I do encourage everyone to use your chat section of your control panel to ask questions or to make comments over anything that we're going to talk about. You do also have a handout that you can locate on the material section of your control panel. If you do not have the handout or if you're calling in by phone, that is okay. You can just follow along with the information and be just fine as well. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, thank you for joining us. Time management for directors. This is a tricky one right here. How many of y'all on this webinar just cannot seem to get it all done? There's so much that we have to do every single day, and you sit there and you start your day. Next thing you know, it's 8 hours later. You have not accomplished one thing, and then you reflect back, and you're like, "What in the world have I done all day long?" So, this is a very tricky subject right here because there is no magic wand that you can wave and boom, your day is going to go perfect. When we talk about, the reasons why we love working in early education, one of the characteristics that we bring up quite often is that we love that we never have the same day twice, that every day is always different, and that keeps our job from getting boring. It keeps it exciting. It keeps it educational, but it also keeps us from getting things done that we need to get done. So I've learned in my experience that planning is everything, but it's a tricky one too. This takes patience. This takes practice. It takes repetition. But most importantly, time management for directors takes an understanding from all parties involved within your organization. So everybody has to be on board with time management. Now, one thing I have found is that once directors get time management down, it's easier for directors to lead their staff in time management. Okay, but a director who just cannot get it together and cannot get all of their chores done in one day has a very difficult time leading their staff and time management. So we got to start up at the top. Now, I have a very important rule that I'm going to throw out there right here at the beginning, and let's just go ahead and get this one on the table. Interruptions are not an excuse. They are a fact of life. All right. So many times when I work with managers and we talk about why we just cannot get everything done, well, I got interrupted. A teacher called in sick. Someone needed a potty break. A parent needed my attention. A kid threw up all over the classroom. Well, you're right. Those are interruptions, but are all of these things not items that we anticipate every single day? Right? These are a fact of life. Now, what you've got to do when you do your time management and when you plan out your day, you have to plan for interruptions. All right. You cannot plan out your entire 8-hour day or 10-hour day and fill every single moment because you're right. You're not going to be successful at that point. All right. You've got to allow time for these interruptions. So that's tip number one that we'll just start off with right off the bat. From this point forward, going on through the webinar, we cannot use interruptions as an excuse because we know that they're going to happen. When you understand that interruptions are going to take place, it's a lot easier to manage them. Okay. When you sit there and you try to tell yourself, I'm not going to have any interruptions today, I'm going to focus, I'm going to get it done, no one's going to stop me, then obviously you're going to fail because interruptions, they are a fact of life. Now, the other big characteristic that we've got to throw out there in order for you to be successful is you got to focus, all right? You have got to focus on, what needs to be done, focus on the job at hand, and stay focused. And we're going to talk about several tips to help you out with this as we go along. All right. So, kind of a little introduction right here. What is time management and why time management? Okay. Because being a director of an early childhood program, we juggle so many balls. We have so many responsibilities. Everything comes back to the director. It is critical that you put a system in place to ensure that you get everything done that needs to be done. But you've got to do that in a very particular way. There's no way that you can do this job just by flying by the seat of your pants. All right. You've got to have a system in place. Now, that system is going to look different for every single one of us. Okay, so that's another thing that you've got to realize is there's no cookie cutter approach to time management. I have a whole nother training that I do on how facilities structure their management, whether it be how many managers you have within your program, what are the responsibilities of each manager, how many employees do you have within your program, how many parents do you have within your program, and all of that is going to affect your time management. Okay, so it's going to be different for everyone. Hopefully you'll take some of the tools and the tips that I give you today so that you can design your own time management system. Now, what does hold us back? And let's kind of make a little list here of, what holds us back. And now, again, these are not excuses. These are facts of life. So what are some of the facts of life that hold us back? Well, of course, we can throw out there parents hold us back, parents wanting our attention. But we should be giving a large portion of our attention towards our customers. We've got to make sure that they're satisfied. We've got to make sure that there's open communication. So in your time management, you need to allot a certain amount of time each day to be spent on parents. And even if a parent does not come to you, you're going to use that allotted amount of time to reach out to parents. Now, I think that this is really important right here. One of the things that I talk about, especially in my 4-day credentialing class, is that the director should always be the first to speak. So you should anticipate issues or concerns with your parents. If you notice that a parent is acting a little bit different, you reach out to them. Don't wait for them to come to you. Why is that important when it comes to time management? You're going to spend less time on the issue when you make the approach. If you wait until the parent comes to you, they're going to take a big chunk of your time. So staying on top of the parents is going to be critical. Okay. Another thing that holds us back, let's go ahead and put staff out there. All right. Again, you should anticipate this. Just like your parents, okay, you should always be the first to speak. When you notice that something is not going right, when you notice a change in behavior, don't wait for that employee to come to you, you go to them. Now, when we talk about what holds us back, of course, staffing is a big part of it. A lot of times when I work with directors and managers, well, I had a teacher that left me. So now I've got to hire someone new, I've got to train someone new, I've got to mentor and coach someone new, and that takes so much of my time. And you're right, it does take a lot of your time, and it should take a lot of your time. But I want you to evaluate for a moment, how much of your time are you spending hiring, mentoring, coaching, training a new employee? And let's just say that's 80 hours of time. And I think I'm being generous when I say 80 hours of time to hire someone, replace them, hire them, interview them, train them, mentor them, coach them. Where if we would have just spent 15 minutes on the previous employee, going to them, being the first to speak, identifying the problem, having an open line of communication, fixing the problem and saving the employee 15 minutes is going to save you 80 hours. Okay, so hopefully everyone will see that. So, are you using your time wisely when it comes to what's holding you back? All right. We can go ahead and say licensing holds us back, especially whenever they come in, and they always come in at the most inappropriate times when you're short staffed, when you've got to do a bus run, when it's your turn to cook, whatever it may be. Boom, there's licensing. But again, fact of life. The other thing, personal issues, definitely something that will hold us back. All right. And again, personal issues, fact of life, they're going to come up. All right. Anyone else want to add something to what holds us back from getting everything done? Go ahead and feel free to type that in on the chat screen right there. And then, the other realistic item that I wanted to throw out there, and I thought that this was a really important one to throw out there. What does being finished or totally caught up look like? Well, I'm sure that none of us can answer that question. None of us knows what being finished or totally caught up looks like because it never happens. All right, it's just a complete revolving wheel. But a lot of times when it comes to time management, I hear directors get very frustrated because they're like, I never get caught up. I never get caught up. I never have everything done. Don't let that frustrate you. All right. It's not about getting everything done. It's about getting as much done as possible. All right. But you're probably never going to get everything done and completely caught up. All right, so let's kind of talk about some of the tips that I've got on here to help you with time management. Now, plan each day. All right, now I like to do this right before you go to bed the night before. I've got this little notebook, right here. And, every night before I go to bed, go ahead and jot down what you need to get accomplished the next day. This is a psychological trick right here, and you might read about this in a lot of time management books or management books. Do it right before you go to bed. That way your mind is at ease. Otherwise, you're going to lay in bed and think about it and think about it and think about it, and you're not going to get enough sleep. Even when you are sleeping, you're not resting. But once you write it down, your mind goes at ease. All right. And so, I kind of make my list every night before I go to bed, and then I'll review it first thing in the morning. All right. Make a list every single day, and even if you write the same list every single day, that's okay. Make sure you put a date up at the top of it, and then cross things out as you get them completed. If you are not getting certain tasks completed, this is why I want you to do this every single day and put a date on it. About once a week, once a month, I want you to evaluate how many times do I write a certain thing down and I don't get it accomplished? And then I want you to reflect on why am I not getting accomplished? Is it because it's not that big of a priority? Am I not getting it accomplished because I don't like doing it and therefore I put it off because I don't like having to do this task? That's usually the number one reason right there. The number one reason for procrastination is because I don't like doing it, so I'm going to put it off. Is the project too large? All right. I know that if I start it, I'm not going to finish it, so I don't ever start it. All right. And we're going to talk about that one in a couple of other slides too, about the larger projects. Okay. But really evaluate and reflect. And it might be that this is something that you need to delegate. It might be that this is something you put as a priority. But really make that reflection on why you're not getting these items done and what's holding you back. Now, I should have put this at the beginning of the webinar when I talked about interruptions are not an excuse and focus. The other big secret to success when it comes to time management is routines, okay? Create a routine. Every single day when you arrive to the school, when you arrive to work, what are the first things you get done? all right, and create those routines. Not only will this help you accomplish these tasks, but other individuals will notice that this is your routine. And the more that they notice that this is your routine, the more they will respect your routine. Okay. The teachers know that every single day the director comes in, they balance the financials, they look at account owings, they review their hours from the day before, they do their safety checklist. They spend 5 minutes of focused time with each employee before they start their day. All of these things right here are routines. And again, once you do it over and over, the employees will know. Don't bother the director until she's done with her morning routines. All right, especially when they start understanding how important those routines are. Now, when we talk about routines, I always like to encourage that you identify the parts of your job that you enjoy and you identify the parts of your job that you dislike. All right. And we all have parts of our job that we dislike, every single one of them. All right. Still has to be done, but it's not our favorite thing. I always encourage that you get those done first. All right. Go ahead and get done the difficult things. That way they're done, they're out of the way, and you can spend the rest of the day working on meaningful projects, meaningful assignments, and the things that you enjoy. All right. That's one thing that I've always done is get the dirty stuff out of the way first, and then that way we can move on. It works really, really well. All right. So plan each day. Now, again, prioritize your task. Now, remember anything that we do in our early education program, health and safety is always your trump card. All right. No matter what it is, legal issues, risk management issues, licensing issues, staffing issues, parent issues, safety, health and safety trumps everything. All right. So any item that's on your to-do list that is directly related to the health and safety of the children always goes to the top of the list and should always become the priority. So when we talk about doing your safety checklist, all right, very important that that goes to the top of your list. Make time for your grounds checklist, your playground checklist, your health checklist that you do in the classroom, and make sure that you are walking around doing this, looking at exactly what you see rather than what you remember. All right? Taking the time to focus on health and safety as a priority will save you time in the long run. All right. This is where, again, we talked at the beginning of the webinar where I really want y'all to do some reflecting on what prohibits you from getting things done and what do you spend so much of your time on that prohibits you from getting things done. And once you reflect on that, I want you to think about how can I be proactive so that I don't deal with these situations in the future. This is where it's going to bring us to this slide right here. Focusing on health and safety first is going to save you so much time in the long run, okay? I don't see how you couldn't do this first. Of course, regulations and policies, and I did kind of lump those together. They could actually be two separate bullet points, but I lumped them together here. Standards and regulations, your minimum standards, your health department compliances, fire marshal compliances, all of this stuff is right up there with health and safety. You keep your center in compliance with minimum standards. Take the time to do that. It will save you time in the long run. We talked about how that licensing rep is a big part of your distractions. Well, keep your program running in compliance. You don't have to worry about them. Policies, right on up there. When we look at underperforming schools, or we look at schools that are being managed in chaos, all right? Is your school being managed in chaos? When we evaluate programs that are in this type of situation, where things are just falling apart and everyone is just scrambling for air, one of the biggest reasons is that policies are not in place and policies are not being followed. Okay, so policies and procedures tie into time management like this. All right, you can't have one without the other. All right, so make sure that your policies are well understood. Make sure that your policies are being followed. It's going to save you so much time in the long run. Now, we talked about, kind of going back over here, what are some of the reasons that hold us back, some of the reasons why we don't get things done. We mentioned staff, okay, staffing issues. How do we manage these staffing issues? We manage our staffing issues by implementing policies effectively, okay? Putting policies in place and managing your policies. When you put policies in place, when you manage your policies, your employees become less of a burden, okay? So incredibly important right there. Like I said, do whatever you don't like to do next. So that goes right up there on your priority list. Just get it over with, whatever that may be. And then everything else comes after that. All right. Okay, great. This is another big one right here. The next thing that I want to talk about. Sorry. Don't get hijacked. All right. You have got to stay in control of your day. I cannot just cannot say that enough. You have got to stay in control of your day. All right. You are in control, not other people, not other situations. Now, in order for you to stay in control and to avoid getting hijacked, the first thing you've got to look at is, what do I have control over and what do I not have control over? Items that you have no control over, don't try to control them. All right. I see so many directors and so many managers that will spend the majority of their day trying to gain control over something that they have no control over. All right. And then you get frustrated, you get burned out, and you leave the industry. So identify the items in your school that you do have control over. What do you not have control over? And some of them are going to take a lot of reflecting, a lot of analyzing, and how can I be proactive in these situations? For example, we're a little late this year, but it's cold and flu season. All right. It's hitting us hard right now. Like I said, it's a little bit later than normal, but boom, it's here, cold and flu season. Now, do you have any control over cold and flu season? No, it's a fact of life. We go through this every single year. All right. Now, what do I have control over? I do have control over hand washing procedures, sanitizing and disinfecting, illness exclusion, all right, and cross-contamination in my program. So rather than trying to spend all of your time on cold and flu season and what I can do to prevent that from happening, you can't prevent that from happening, but what I can spend my time on is managing it, all right? We're going to wash our hands the 12, almost soon to be 13 times that caregivers wash hands in the classroom. We're going to make sure the children are washing hands the 7 times they should be washing their hands. We're going to sanitize. We're going to disinfect. All right, we're going to send children home. We're going to keep them out of the program until they're well. And same thing with your employees. We don't allow sick employees to come to work. That's when they're getting the other kids sick, their teachers sick. Have control over the stuff that you can have control over. All right. So there you go. Say no to non-essential tasks. When someone does try to hijack you and get you involved in non-productive and non-meaningful conversation or task, you got to say no to it and walk away. This would be gossiping, would probably be one of the biggest things right there. Just everyday chit chat over nothing that has to do with the school. It's all fine and good to have that release every once in a while. But when you've got a job to do, you got to stay focused. And remember, the slide earlier talked about being focused. All right. Yes, we want to talk about Saturday night. We want to talk about the events of Saturday night and this great new restaurant that's in town or whatnot. But that comes once you've got a big majority of your list done. Okay. If you still have a lot of things on your list, not the time for that. All right. So just say no to those non essential tasks right there. All right. Um, this is another one is delegate. Now, I know a lot of us in the director position, um, we have a really difficult time with delegation. All right. Especially when you delegate a project and it doesn't get done to your expectation. It's very frustrating and it makes you not want to delegate anymore. But we've got to realize that that's not growing your people. All right. Now, the first thing I've got on this slide right here, and I think this is very important too, is that when you do make your to-do list is not a secret. Make sure that everyone is aware that you have a to-do list. All right, it needs to be public with among your other managers, within your employees. Hey, these are the items that I've got to get done today. All right, so many times I see managers and directors try to keep their to-do list a secret, mainly because they're embarrassed that they've got so many things that they need to get done. I don't know why you would be embarrassed, but I hear that. But when people know that you have items that must get done, when they're aware of it, they're more likely to respect it. Okay. Also, when people are aware of your to-do list, it creates the opportunity for individuals to volunteer their services. Hey, why don't I take this off of your plate? Would you like for me to work on this for you? And it creates that opportunity for you to delegate. And you might find that you'll start delegating some of your items to people that you would not normally delegate them to because you didn't think they were capable of doing it. But when they volunteer, it creates that opportunity. All right. This is going to help grow your people. It's going to help, hold them accountable. It's going to help empower your team. All right. And that empowerment is so incredibly awesome. When I talk to directors and managers a lot about empowerment, why don't we empower our employees? Why don't we delegate more responsibilities to our employees? I get the feedback sometimes, well, I don't want them to grow too much because then they might take my job. If you're afraid that an employee is going to take your job, that is not the employee's issue, that's your issue. All right. Obviously, you need to step it up. Okay. But remember, you should always be training someone to take your place at any time. Okay. Because you never know what could happen to you. Someone's got to run the show. When you do delegate, hold people accountable. Okay. Give them constant feedback. Let them know when they're doing a good job. Let them know when they're not meeting your expectations. What do they need to do to make it better? I like organizations that the management team or the leadership team will sit down and make their to-do list together and share the responsibilities of getting things done within the building. Now, I see this quite often, and it's really important too that if you do make a to-do list together and you delegate the responsibilities amongst 3 or 4 people, it's very important that everybody does their part. All right. So many times you will divide up the responsibilities and there's one person that doesn't get anything done on their list. And then when you ask them, why didn't you get anything done on your list? They go back to the interruptions and they try to use that as an excuse. Well, we all had interruptions. Okay. That's a fact of life. So you got to hold people accountable. Otherwise, if you don't address this issue, it becomes a burden and a frustration, and that's counterproductive right there. All right. Very good. Time is kind of the last slide that I have on here. And this is a big one right here. Now, first off, take the time that you need to do a quality job. All right. Now, when we talk about taking the time that you need to do a quality job, don't laugh at me when I say this, okay, folks? But I cannot stress this enough. Do not multitask. All right. I want y'all to avoid multitasking. And here's the reason why is that when we try to multitask and we try to do 4 things at one time, and there's a lot of research behind this, folks, when we try to do multiple things at one time, the quality of our work decreases because you're not giving each project 100% of your time and efforts. Therefore, the quality is weak. When the quality of the project is weak, it creates further issues down the road. And you end up spending more time trying to fix it or rework it or redoing it than what you initially spent on it. So break it out in your to-do list that you do one item at a time, give it your complete attention, focus, get it right the first time. Once you get it right the first time, you can put it to bed, it's done, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Okay, but that multitasking can get us in trouble quite often because of the quality of work that we're doing. If you do have a large task that needs to be done, break it down into smaller tasks that are realistic. All right. Now, with this, you've got to really evaluate your day, evaluate all of your responsibilities and what you need to get done, and how much time do I really have to spend on this large project. And it might be that you are only spending 15 to 30 minutes a day on a particular project until it's done. But again, you're giving it your full attention for that 15 to 30 minutes. But break it down into a more realistic goal. The other reason why, for me personally, I like to break down larger tasks into smaller items because, again, and I think this is true for all of us that work in early education, we're all kind of ADD and we lose attention really, really quick. And so I can only spend 15 or 20 minutes on a project before my mind starts going way over here. So I have just learned for myself that when I'm trying to get something done, 15 or 20 minutes, walk away. Come back, 15 or 20 minutes, walk away. Otherwise, like I said, my mind starts going over here and, who knows what's going to happen. Now, another thing that I like to encourage on time, especially being a director, and those of you that are running a larger program, this is important right here for you as well. Follow what I call a 10-minute rule, okay? The 10-minute rule, where you spend 10 minutes working on your to-do list, and then you allow 10 minutes for distractions, okay? Then 10 minutes to work on your projects, 10 minutes for distractions, all right? Because that's pretty much the fact of life right there, all right? If you work for 10 minutes and you don't have a distraction, all right, go ahead and take that 10 minutes that you plan for the distraction and you be proactive and go to your people. Does anyone need a potty break? Do I need to take 10 minutes to do a follow-up phone call with a parent on an issue that happened last week? Let me go ahead and call this parent up, just follow up. How's it going? Did we meet your expectations? Do you have any further questions? But take that time to do something that would normally be a distraction. Okay. Once you are proactive at that, you take advantage of that 10 minutes, then it doesn't become a distraction. Okay. Hope that makes sense right there. But the 10-minute rule, it works really well. It's very effective. Okay. Really, at the end of each day, and in order for you to really get time management down, you've got to make a commitment to time management. Okay. You've got to make that commitment to time management. And you really need to block out about 30 days. You need to spend 1 month really focused on time management, how I'm spending my day, what is effective, what is not effective. Now, for that 30 days that you're making this commitment, at the end of each day, so if your center closes at 6:30, you do this at 6:30, all right, or whatever time your school closes. What did I, and document this in your little notebook. What did I get done? What did I not get done? How did I spend my day? Oh, so sorry for the puppy dogs, everybody. But I want you to document, how did you spend your day? And I want you to do this every day for 30 days because it's going to help you notice trends. It's going to help you notice what is taking you away from your day. That way you can plan your day more effectively. Now, I cannot stress to you enough that you put this in writing. Don't do it up here in your little head. That's another mistake that we tend to make, is we try to do everything up here in our little head. We don't get the full benefits when we try to evaluate in our head. You've got to write it down so that you can notice the trends, you can compare, you can get a full picture right there. All right? Communicate, communicate, communicate with your team, with your other managers, with your parents. I just cannot express this one enough. Now, I kind of saved this for the very end because I didn't want to just kind of blow everybody out of the water here. But, I have in my programs a very, very strict customer service policy. And within my customer service policy, my managers are prohibited from doing busy work during the opening part of the day and during the closing part of the day. So typically, 6:30 in the morning to 8:30 in the morning, they cannot do any type of busy work. From basically 4:30 in the afternoon to 6:30 in the afternoon, no busy work. During that opening and closing time frames, I want them to be 100% focused on interacting and communicating with our parents and with our employees, being available to them. And I know a lot of times people are sitting there going, Tim, that's crazy. That's 4 hours a day that they're not allowed to do any busy work. How in the world do they get everything else done? Gang, this works. All right. I cannot stress this enough. It works. When you take those morning hours, when you take those afternoon hours, and you make a commitment to your customers, you make a commitment to your staff, you make yourself available and open to them, it eliminates all of the other distractions that prohibit you from doing your job. That way, during that middle part of the day, you get it done. Okay? And it's amazing how it works. If you're sitting behind a desk, behind a computer screen, you're not available to your people. Okay? That's why, again, during those opening hours, during those closing hours, those drop-off hours, those pickup hours, you're not sitting in a chair behind a desk. You're out front of the desk. Okay? Full body available to your people. That makes you open. Man, I just cannot express that enough. Take a break when needed. It's okay for you to walk away. We do this within our programs quite often, that sometimes you need to take about 5 minutes and just go walk the parking lot, walk around the building, go walk the playground. It's going to clear your mind and make you mentally available to get everything else done. Of course, I've got to throw in there, get enough sleep. Okay. Sleep is the key to everything. All right. Sleep and water, sleep and water. All right. And then use a calendar to your advantage. Nowadays, online calendars work best because we can access it from our computers, from our smartphones, whatever. And there's so many different apps out there that will help you with your planning. But you know, my calendar is my best friend. I don't know what I would do without it. All right. Fantastic. So that's what I've got to share with you on time management today. Again, I'm going to type one more thing over here in the control panel. Commitment. You got to make that commitment to time management. You got to be real. All right. You got to be real. And like I said, no excuses. All right. No excuses. Those disruptions are a fact of life. All right. Does anyone have any questions or comments over anything that we've discussed today? Okay. Was this information helpful to you? Okay. Hopefully this was helpful to everybody. All right, fantastic. Well, I do appreciate you joining. We got done just a little bit early today since it was super quiet, but I appreciate your time. Time is important. It's one of the most special things that we have in our life. Thank you so much, Tamika. There we go. Thank you. Like I said, continue to join me every Tuesday at 11 a.m. for our webinars. The schedule is on the website for future webinars coming up. I appreciate each and every one of you. Your certificate will be emailed to you usually about an hour after the webinar ends. I will see everybody next Tuesday, hopefully. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.